Subscribe to our channel for more gripping stories and thrilling narratives that keep you on the edge of your seat. The gala's chandeliers sparkled, casting golden light across the room. I stood near the back, my black suit blending into the shadows. My boss, Mr. Hargrove, leaned in close, his breath heavy with whiskey. "You'll always be the odd one out," he sneered, his words sharp as a blade. I forced a smile, my stomach twisting, but I didn't respond. The crowd buzzed with laughter and clinking glasses, oblivious to our exchange. Years of late nights, unpaid overtime, and dismissed ideas flashed through my mind. I'd poured my soul into this company, yet here I was, invisible. Hargrove's smirk lingered as he turned to charm a nearby executive. I adjusted my tie, feeling the weight of his words settle in. The room was a sea of privilege, and I was a speck in it. But something in me stirred, a spark of defiance I couldn't name. Tonight felt different, like the air held a secret. Then the announcer's voice cut through the noise, calling my name. My heart stopped. The room fell silent, every eye turning toward me. Hargrove's glass froze midway to his lips, his smirk gone. I stepped forward, my shoes clicking on the polished floor, echoing in the hush. The spotlight burned my skin, but I kept my head high. For outstanding contributions to innovation, the announcer continued. I could feel the weight of their stares, colleagues who'd ignored me, executives who'd dismissed me. My project, the one I'd fought for, had saved the company millions. I'd worked in secret, knowing they'd never credit me. Now the truth was out, and the room couldn't look away. I reached the stage, my hands trembling as I gripped the award. The applause was slow at first, then thunderous, but it felt hollow. Hargrove's face was a mask of shock, his eyes narrow with something darker. This wasn't just a win, it was a reckoning. I'd turned the tables, and they all knew it. I held the award, its cold metal grounding me as I scanned the crowd. Faces I'd seen daily now looked foreign, caught off guard. My mind raced back to the countless meetings where my ideas were stolen. Not practical, they'd said, or too risky, while others took the credit. I'd stayed late, perfecting every detail of the project in silence. No one noticed the extra hours, the missed dinners, the sleepless nights. But now, they couldn't ignore me. The announcer's words echoed in my head, a game changer for the industry. I wanted to laugh at the irony. Hargrove had called me a nobody just minutes ago. Now I was the one holding the proof of my worth. I caught his eye as I stepped to the podium. His jaw was tight, his hands clenched. I hadn't just won an award, I'd exposed their game. The room's applause felt like a tide turning in my favor. I cleared my throat, the microphone amplifying my every breath. "Thank you," I began, my voice steady despite the nerves. The crowd leaned in, waiting for me to falter, but I wouldn't. "This award isn't just mine," I said, pausing to let the words sink in. "It's for every idea dismissed, every voice ignored." A murmur rippled through the room, some nodding, others shifting uncomfortably. I thought of Sarah, my old cubicle mate, who'd quit after being overlooked. Of Mark, whose designs were mocked until someone else claimed them. This was for them, too. I spoke of the project, how it started as a late-night sketch on a napkin. How I'd coded through weekends, driven by a need to prove them wrong. Hargrove's eyes bored into me, but I didn't flinch. For once, I held the power. The room was mine, and I wasn't done yet. The speech flowed, each word a release of years of frustration. I didn't name names, but I didn't need to. Everyone knew who'd sat at the top, reaping rewards they hadn't earned. I spoke of innovation born from struggle, of ideas that thrive despite doubt. The crowd was rapt, some faces softening, others hard with guilt. I thought of my first day here, wide-eyed and eager, only to be met with cold shoulders. I'd been the outsider, the one who didn't fit their mold. But that's why I'd succeeded, because I saw what they couldn't. The project wasn't just a product, it was a statement. I'd built it in the cracks of their system, where they never looked. As I finished, the applause roared again, louder now, genuine. Hargrove clapped, but his eyes were daggers. I stepped off the stage, feeling taller than ever. Back at my table, colleagues swarmed me, their smiles forced but polite. I had no idea, one said, as if that excused years of silence. I nodded, keeping my thoughts to myself. The gala resumed, music swelling, but the air had shifted. People whispered, glancing my way, recalculating my place in their world. I sipped my drink, letting the moment sink in. This wasn't just about the award, it was about rewriting the narrative. I'd been the odd one out, but now I was the one they'd remember. Hargrove stayed across the room, surrounded by his usual circle, but he kept watching me. I could almost hear his thoughts, scrambling to regain control. He'd underestimated me, and that was his mistake. The night was young, and I wasn't done shaking things up. The spark in me burned brighter now. An hour later the dance floor filled, but I stayed at the edge, observing. Executives mingled, their laughter louder than necessary, masking their unease. My awards sat on the table, glinting under the lights, a silent challenge. A senior VP approached, offering congratulations laced with curiosity. "How'd you pull it off?" he asked, as if it were a magic trick. I smiled, vague, letting him wonder. The truth was simple: hard work, grit, and a refusal to quit. But they didn't want that answer. It didn't fit their story. They wanted a fluke, something to dismiss. I wasn't giving them that. Another colleague, tipsy, clapped my shoulder, saying, "You've got balls." I laughed, but inside, I was steel. Hargrove was still watching, his face unreadable now. I knew this wasn't over. He'd come for me, one way or another. The night wore on, and the crowd thinned, but the tension lingered. I stepped outside for air, the city skyline glittering beyond the venue. My phone buzzed, texts from old coworkers, some I hadn't spoken to in years. "You showed them," one read, and I smiled. They'd been in the trenches with me, knew what it took. Back inside, I caught snippets of conversation. My name, the project, words like "dark horse." It felt good, but I wasn't naive. This victory would make enemies. Hargrove wasn't the type to let this slide. He'd built his empire on control, and I'd just cracked its foundation. I returned to my table, the award still there, a reminder of what I'd done. The gala was winding down, but my fight was just beginning. I was ready for whatever came next. As the final speeches wrapped, I felt a hand on my shoulder. It was Lisa, from HR, her smile genuine. "You've got people talking," she said, her eyes warm but cautious. She'd seen the politics here, knew the cost of standing out. "Be careful," she whispered before slipping away. Her warning hung in the air, heavy with truth. I glanced at Hargrove, now deep in conversation with the CEO. Their heads were close, their gestures sharp. I could guess the topic, me. They'd try to spin this, maybe offer a promotion to keep me quiet. Or worse, find a way to push me out. But I wasn't the same person who'd walked into this gala. The award wasn't just a trophy, it was armor. I'd earned my place, and I wasn't giving it up. The night had changed everything. The next morning, I woke to a flood of emails, congratulations, requests for meetings, even a few apologies. I scanned them, skeptical, knowing flattery often hid agendas. At the office, the air was different, charged with curiosity. Colleagues who'd barely nodded at me now stopped to chat. I kept my responses short, my focus on the work ahead. My project wasn't done, it was just phase 1. I'd already sketched out phase 2, bolder and riskier. Hargrove's office door stayed closed, but I felt his presence like a storm cloud. By noon, I was called to the boardroom. The CEO was there, all smiles, offering a special role on a new task force. It sounded prestigious but vague, classic corporate bait. I thanked him, said I'd consider it. Inside, I knew it was a leash, not a ladder. They wanted control, but I wasn't playing their game. Back at my desk, I dove into my work, ignoring the buzz around me. My code was my sanctuary, lines of logic no one could twist. The project's success had opened doors, but also eyes. People were watching now, waiting for my next move. I heard whispers about Hargrove, rumors he'd downplayed my work to the board. It didn't surprise me. He'd always been a master of spin, rewriting history to suit his ego. But facts were harder to bury now. My award was public, undeniable. I opened my laptop, pulling up the next phase's blueprint. This one would be bigger, a direct challenge to the old guard. I worked through lunch, fueled by coffee and resolve. Hargrove could scheme all he wanted. I was already steps ahead. The odd one out was rewriting the rules. By midweek, the office dynamic had shifted further. Some colleagues were warmer, others distant, picking sides. I caught Hargrove watching me in the hallway, his smile tight and false. "Nice work," he said, the words dripping with calculation. I nodded, giving nothing away. Later, I overheard him in a meeting, calling my project a lucky break. I clenched my fists but stayed silent. Let him talk. I'd let my work speak louder. I spent evenings refining my plans, building alliances with junior staff who'd been overlooked like me. We shared ideas, frustrations, dreams of a better system. They saw what I'd done and wanted in. For the first time, I wasn't alone. The odd one out was becoming a leader. Hargrove didn't see it yet, but he would. Friday brought a surprise, an email from the CEO himself, inviting me to dinner. "To discuss your future," it read. I stared at the screen, weighing the intent. Was it a genuine offer or another trap? I accepted, knowing I'd need to play this carefully. The dinner was at a swanky restaurant, all dim lights and overpriced wine. The CEO was charming, asking about my vision, my goals. I kept my answers measured, revealing enough to seem engaged but not enough to be cornered. He hinted at a promotion, more responsibility, but the subtext was clear: stay in line. I smiled, sipped my wine, and thought of my next move. They thought they could buy me off, but I wasn't for sale. The gala had lit a fire, and I was just getting started. The weekend gave me time to reflect, away from the office's noise. I walked through the park, the awards still on my desk at home, a reminder of what I'd achieved. I thought of Hargrove's face that night, the shock when my name was called. It wasn't just about me, it was about everyone who'd been pushed aside. I pulled out my notebook, jotting ideas for Phase 2. This project would disrupt their cozy hierarchy, force them to adapt. I'd need support, resources, and a team I could trust. Back home, I emailed my allies, setting up a meeting. We'd work in the shadows, just like I had before. Hargrove thought he'd won by ignoring me, but that was his mistake. I was building something bigger, and he'd feel it soon. Monday morning, I walked into the office with purpose. My allies met me at lunch, a small group of misfits like me. We mapped out our plan, pooling skills and ideas. Sarah, who'd returned as a contractor, brought data expertise. Mark had a knack for design. Together, we were unstoppable. We worked after hours, our laughter echoing in the empty office. Hargrove's team noticed, their glances sharper now. They sensed something brewing but couldn't pin it down. I kept my head down, playing the diligent employee by day. By night, we built the future. Phase 2 was taking shape, a system that would outshine the old guard's outdated methods. The gala had been my spark. This was my fire. I was no longer the odd one out. I was the one leading the charge. Weeks passed, and our project grew in secret. We tested prototypes, debugged code, and refined every detail. The office rumor mill churned. People knew I was up to something. Hargrove called me into his office, his tone all false warmth. "You're making waves," he said, leaning back in his chair. I nodded, keeping my face neutral. He probed, asking about my side projects. I gave vague answers, deflecting with talk of routine tasks. His eyes narrowed, but he let me go. I knew he was digging, looking for a way to undermine me. But we were careful, covering our tracks. My team was loyal, bound by a shared sense of justice. The gala had shown me what was possible. Now, we were making it real. Hargrove's time was running out. The boardroom meeting came sooner than expected. The CEO called us in to present new initiatives. I knew this was my moment. My team and I had prepared, our prototype ready to demo. We walked in, heads high, ignoring the skeptical glances. I presented Phase 2, my voice steady as I outlined its impact. The room was quiet, then erupted in questions, some curious, others hostile. Hargrove tried to interrupt, calling it unproven, but I countered with data, facts they couldn't dismiss. The CEO leaned forward, intrigued. My team backed me up, each member shining in their role. By the end, the room was buzzing, and Hargrove's face was pale. We'd done it, shown them the future. The odd ones out were now the ones setting the pace. After the meeting, the CEO pulled me aside, his tone serious. This could change everything, he said, but his eyes held a warning. I nodded, knowing the stakes. Success meant power, and power meant enemies. Hargrove was already rallying his allies, whispering in corners. I didn't care. My team was stronger, our vision clearer. We worked late, fueled by adrenaline and takeout, pushing the project forward. The office felt alive now, like a battlefield where ideas were weapons. Colleagues who'd ignored me now asked to join us. I vetted them carefully, building a coalition of the overlooked. The gala had been the spark, but this was the blaze. Hargrove's empire was crumbling, and I was holding the match. Months later, Phase 2 launched, and the industry took notice. Articles called it revolutionary, crediting my team by name. The office was transformed. New faces, new energy, and a grudging respect from the old guard. Hargrove was quieter now, his influence waning. The CEO offered me a corner office, but I declined. I didn't need their symbols. I had my team, my work. We were already planning Phase 3, bigger and bolder. The gala felt like a lifetime ago, but its lessons stayed with me. Being the odd one out wasn't a curse. It was my strength. I'd turned their doubt into my victory, their dismissal into my legacy. The company was changing, and so was I. The fight wasn't over, but I was ready for it. The industry awards season came again, and my team was nominated. We sat together at the gala, no longer outsiders. The room buzzed with anticipation, but I felt calm. We'd earned this, every one of us. When our names were called, we stood as one, the applause deafening. Hargrove was there, clapping stiffly, his smile a mask. I met his eyes, unflinching, and saw something new, resignation. He knew he'd lost. My team took the stage, each member sharing the spotlight. We spoke of collaboration, of breaking barriers, of building something real. The crowd was with us, their cheers of validation of our fight. I thought back to that first gala, to Hargrove's cruel words. They'd fueled me, but I didn't need them anymore. I had my team, my purpose. We were the future now. Back at the office, our project became the company's cornerstone. Clients clamored to work with us, and recruits begged to join. I mentored the new hires, teaching them to question, to push, to never settle. Hargrove was reassigned to a smaller role, his empire reduced to a desk. I didn't gloat. It wasn't about him anymore. It was about the work, the people, the change. My team grew, a mix of dreamers and doers, all hungry to make a mark. We met weekly, brainstorming over coffee, laughing like old friends. The office felt like ours now, a place where ideas could breathe. I kept my award on my desk, a reminder of where I'd started. The odd one out had built a home here, and it felt right. One evening, I got a call from Sarah, now leading her own startup. "You inspired me," she said, her voice warm. I smiled, thinking of our late-night coding sessions. She wasn't the only one. Mark had launched a design firm, others were pitching ideas. We'd started a ripple, and it was spreading. I walked through the office, now quiet, and felt a surge of pride. This was my legacy, not just the projects, but the people I'd lifted up. Hargrove's shadow was gone, replaced by a new energy. I sat at my desk, sketching ideas for Phase 3. It was ambitious, maybe even risky, but that's what drove me. The gala had been a spark, but this was a movement. I was no longer the odd one out. I was the one leading the way. The CEO called me in for a one-on-one, his tone different now. "You've changed this place," he said, almost in awe. I nodded, letting him talk. He offered me a seat on the board, a real one this time. I took a day to think, weighing the power against the freedom I'd fought for. In the end, I accepted, not for the title, but for the chance to shape the future. My team cheered when I told them, their trust unwavering. We were more than colleagues now. We were family. Hargrove retired soon after, a quiet exit no one noticed. His era was over, and ours had begun. I looked at the award on my desk, its shine faded but its meaning clear. It wasn't about me, it was about what we could do together. Phase 3 was green-lit, and we dove in, fearless. The office hummed with energy, ideas bouncing like sparks. We were disrupting not just our company, but the industry itself. Competitors scrambled to keep up, but we were always a step ahead. I led with transparency, sharing credit, lifting others up. My team trusted me, and I trusted them. We made mistakes, laughed them off, and kept going. The odd ones out were now the trendsetters, the ones others looked to. I thought of Hargrove's words that night at the gala, how they'd cut deep. Now they were just a memory, powerless. I'd turned his doubt into my drive, his dismissal into my destiny. The company was ours, and we were just getting started. One night, I stayed late, the office dark except for my desk lamp. I opened my laptop, pulling up old project files. There was the napkin sketch, the first spark of my idea. I smiled, remembering the doubt, the struggle, the triumph. My phone buzzed, a message from a new hire, thanking me for believing in her. I typed back, "Keep pushing. You've got this." That's what it was about. Passing it on. The gala had been a turning point, but the real work was here, in the quiet moments. I leaned back, looking at the award, now just one piece of a bigger story. The odd one out had found his place, not by fitting in, but by standing out. And I wasn't done standing yet. The next gala was different. I wasn't in the shadows anymore. My team filled a table, laughing, clinking glasses. We were nominated again, but it didn't matter if we won. We'd already changed the game. When the announcer called another team's name, we cheered louder than anyone. Success wasn't about awards now, it was about impact. I caught the CEO's eye across the room, and he nodded, a rare show of respect. Hargrove was gone, his name barely mentioned. My team danced, their joy infectious, and I joined them. The music pulsed, the lights spun, and I felt alive. The odd one out had built a legacy, not just for me, but for everyone who'd been overlooked. This was our night, our victory. Months later, I stood at a conference, keynoting to a packed room. I told our story, the gala, the struggle, the triumph. The crowd listened, rapt, some taking notes. I spoke of resilience, of finding strength in being different. Afterward, people approached, sharing their own stories of being the odd one out. I listened, nodding, knowing their fight. My team was there, too, presenting our latest work. We were a force now, unstoppable. The industry had shifted, and we were at its heart. I thought of that first gala, Hargrove's sneer, my name echoing through the silence. It felt like a lifetime ago. I'd turned their doubt into my fuel, their dismissal into my fire. The odd one out was now the one they all watched. Back home, I framed the napkin sketch, hanging it beside the award. They told the same story, one of defiance, of proving them wrong. My team was planning phase 4 now, dreaming bigger than ever. We'd outgrown the office, moving to a new space we designed ourselves. It was open, collaborative, a place where ideas thrived. I walked through it daily, seeing faces light up with purpose. This was what I'd fought for, not just success, but change. Hargrove's words were a distant echo, meaningless now. I'd built something real, something lasting. The odd one out had become the one who made a difference. And I'd keep making it, one idea at a time. Years from now, they'll tell this story, not just of me, but of us. The ones who didn't fit, who refused to bow. The gala was the spark, but we were the fire. My team grew, our projects reshaping the industry. We mentored others, passed on the torch. The company wasn't perfect, but it was better, because of us. I stood at my window, the city sprawling below, and felt at peace. Hargrove's words had been a challenge, and I'd answered. The odd one out wasn't alone anymore. I had my team, my purpose, my legacy. The fight was worth it, every step. And as the sun set, I knew we'd keep rising. The future was ours, and we'd make it extraordinary. Thank you for listening to this story of triumph and resilience. Subscribe to our channel for more tales of underdogs who changed the game. Don't miss out. Join us now.